Hi all, welcome back to the channel. So what I want to kind of discuss today is about rate limiters. Now rate limiters are not, specific to AI, but they are an extremely important concept because, you could have a scenario where you have somebody sending in requests to an application and they can continue to bombard that application. And if there's no kind of rate limiting in place, it may actually kind of take down the application, but even in the worst scenario, could actually take down the server. So, servers and pods, if they're running in Kubernetes, they'll have limited resources. And that's how kind of people take services offline, that they bombard um, the application with some type of automated traffic. So rate limiters kind of stop that in the sense where they'll sort of say, okay, so I'm going to process this request, I'm going to process this request, I'm going to process this request. But when it kind of gets to its limit that you've kind of set and you've maybe kind of pre-configured, at that point it'll basically, cancel and not process any further requests for a certain time period. So that's how we can kind of protect our application. So I've kind of created this basic diagram here, which kind of, as usual, we're going to do something in kind of VS Code. I'm going to do something here in VS Code, and I'm going to have like a sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, and sample 4. And sample 1 is where, it's going to be basic processing in Python, where it'll basically process the requests just using kind of Python itself. And sample 2 will be basically kind of, the per user. So sample 1 will be, per application, and sample 2 will be actually per user. So only kind of if a user keeps sending in the same requests, then, at a certain point the request will be cut off. And sample 3 is basically when it's going to use like a Redis slider window. So using Redis is a kind of good way to control the actual amount of requests and kind of log and keep a track of the actual requests that are kind of coming in. So in this case, you're just basically using Redis as like a kind of a database table in scenario. And this scenario 4 is where you're kind of using Redis in like a fixed window. So you can actually kind of, with the slider window, you can kind of adjust the settings in the fixed window. So that says, it has to be this amount of requests in this amount of time. The only kind of thing I'm doing differently here is I'm kind of running the Redis on the kind of Docker. But if we kind of start with the actual basic sample 1, what I can kind of do is I can kind of bring up this VS Code that I've kind of written first here. And this is basically just, a simple Python application that we kind of got the help from kind of AI to help us kind of write this quick kind of application. But if you sort of see, if the limiter sort of says, it allows requests, then the actual request itself is actually allowed. And if it's kind of blocked, it'll sort of say it's actually blocked. And then, it'll simulate one request per second. So it'll just kind of keep doing this, for a maximum kind of 10 in this case. But it's just a kind of scenario that'll sort of say, we can actually kind of, mimic, traffic kind of going to the one request. So if I kind of run this here, so this is number one basic example here, you'll sort of see it allows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then after that it sort of says, okay, so now it's actually kind of blocked. So now, it's kind of blocked the final kind of 5 requests here because it sort of says that the actual rate limit is exceeded. It's a really kind of basic example, but it is a kind of important concept because you could sort of see that, a general and genuine user probably would maybe do a kind of a few requests if they were basically, chatting with your AI bot or something like that. A human can only do a certain amount of typing in a certain amount of time. But if they sort of see here, if the application sort of sees that you've kind of exceeded that limit, so this here could be a possible kind of human, but this here could be kind of something that's kind of automated, maybe by another bot or maybe by kind of a script or something. Then at that time, it'll actually start to kind of block those. So that's the kind of first basic kind of example. So if I kind of change this then and sort of do it per user then as well, so I can kind of run, sample 2 here per kind of user. So this is the Alice and Bob, Alice and Bob, Alice and Bob, Alice and Bob. And it sort of says, okay, so attempt one, attempt two, attempt three, everything was kind of good. So what they're doing here is we're sort of saying, okay, so each user is actually allowed kind of three requests here, and that's the ones that they kind of used. But then once they kind of got into attempt four and attempt five, here, this is where it actually kind of exceeded, and this is where it was actually blocked. So this is where you can actually kind of, block per user. And in the previous example, we did kind of per application. So I am going to now open up my Docker desktop here. And when I get Docker desktop up and running, what I'm going to actually do here is we're going to start the next part of this application here, so that we'll actually have another Docker here. So let me get this open here. So I'm going to, let's sort of say, yeah. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of say, let's see if I actually have Redis working here. So if I kind of do this number 3 here now, so if I'm going to go back here and do my number 3 here now, yeah, so you basically kind of get an actual connection refused here because we actually don't have Redis up and running here. So I'm going to start Redis and get that up and running first. Okay, so I've got the command here. So right now, I don't have any Redis Docker image running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this Docker run name Redis demo out at the port, and I'm going to I'm actually going to, let's see. Okay, so you can actually sort of see that if I do a Docker image list here, you can sort of see that I actually have a Redis image here. And if I do Docker container list, you'll sort of see that I actually have a kind of a Llama Docker. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to remove everything here from my images here. So I'm going to remove all of my images here with this kind of simple command, so you can sort of see that it's actually kind of, deleted everything. So if I do Docker image list here, I only have a llama. If I do Docker no container list here, you can sort of see I've only actually got a llama now. So that command just is kind of an easy command to actually kind of remove everything. So I'm going to go back to my Redis Docker image here. So if I kind of just press up here, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to allow that, and it's going to basically kind of pull down my Redis. So I'd actually kind of tried this at the weekend, and it was absolutely fine. So now if I kind of do Docker image list, I have Redis, and if I do Docker container list, you can sort of see that I actually have a container with Redis demo right now. So which means that I can actually rerun my sample here. So if I can go back to slider window here, you can sort of see now I actually have Redis running, and the sample is, kind of doing the same. But what it's basically doing this time is it's kind of, it waited, it kind of blocked 4 and 5 here. And it kind of allowed 6, 7, and 8. So it's kind of like simulating that, a user, probably isn't kind of typing anything here. If this is kind of automated, it'll just continue to kind of spam the application here. So that worked kind of fine. So that was kind of fine. And then we can kind of do the window counter here. So I can do kind of, press up here and go back to number 4 here. And we can kind of use the same Redis, and you can sort of see it's doing exactly the same here. It's just in a different kind of type of scenario here. So it's kind of blocked 4 and 5 again here. So if you kind of go into the code here, you can actually sort of see that, number 3 was per user sliding window rate limiter using Redis, as he said. So it allows a maximum requests in the last window seconds. So this is my local Redis here that's running on Docker here. So you can sort of see the kind of code here. So kind of goes through the code, and it's actually just kind of checking to sort of see, if Alice and Bob have actually kind of, made an attempt, and if it's in that window, it'll allow it. If it's outside of that actual window, it'll block it. And number four is kind of doing roughly very, very similar to that. It says per user's fixed window limiter using Redis string counters. So you can sort of see here, it's kind of got like a rate forwarder here, but it's technically kind of doing the same type of thing here. Um, this AI limiter, this stuff here, it's not specific to an actual AI application, but it is extremely important that you actually have that kind of something implemented that, you wouldn't allow somebody to spam your application, and to test it, verify it, make sure that it's actually kind of working as well. So these types of scripts kind of simulate that, that type of testing. So here you can sort of see, the example window here for maximum 3 requests, and the window, is per 5 seconds. So every kind of request for 3 over a 5-second window. So otherwise they're kind of blocked here. So that's the kind of code. It's quite kind of straightforward kind of code for all of those applications, but rate limiters are extremely powerful, very good to kind of keep in mind when you're actually designing applications and making sure that you're not basically being able to be spammed. Okay, that's what I have for today. Thank you.